Today we're going over how to craft the absolute best items on Darktide, but not only that, I'm going to teach you some cheesy ways to guarantee you to at least have a decent item that's usable while saving you a ton of materials and giving you a real shot at a best in slot piece. And I'll show a few of my rolls off at the end of the video so you can experience my agony and my success at the same time. And I want to thank you for all the love on the recent videos. We just hit 10K subs, so I'm really happy most of you are enjoying the videos. It's been an absolutely crazy week. So we're lighting this off with how to actually even attempt an item like this. And first of all, we have to find something with decent damage modifier rolls. So when we talk about ranged weapons, we want to look at damage, stopping power, collateral, peen, and crit bonus. And no item currently has collateral and stopping power on it at the same time, but the revolver is the only ranged weapon with crit bonus, and crit bonus always takes priority over everything except damage. And that's only because of the way crit scaling currently works, by not needing to actually crit to modify the armor multiplier bonus off of the damage. And you can only currently roll 80% on any of these modifiers. So you want to focus on getting all of your damage stats at 80% first. So when we look at the bolter, you would want to go damage, then stopping power at 80%, and whatever reload speed you could get. And mine only has okay stopping power, but I rolled this before I knew the ways. But when we go over melee weapons, you want to look at damage, finesse, and then peen. But again, critical bonus appears on things like the tactical axe, and you always want to prioritize it after damage, at least until they fix it. And it always takes the highest priority in crit focus builds. And then for flamethrower weapons, you always want to prioritize damage and then burn. Burn actually affects the maximum stacks all the way up to 16 for both the Perkatos flame staff and the flamethrower. And then the damage affects the scaling of those stacks. And then you want cloud radius obviously as high as possible after that, because that just affects the general size of how big it is. And then for Psykers, you can look at damage obviously being the most important, then crit bonus or charge rate, and then warp resistance. Warp resistance actually makes a massive difference on all of the warp weapons, and they all really stack up nicely together. So those are just the general rules for weapons on things you want to focus on first if you ever get confused about them. And the site I use for those images is linked in the description. And as you can see, there is a lot of values, but when you can actually see what they do, it's pretty easy to prioritize them, because you can see there's a massive list of multiplicative and partially multiplicative modifiers that go into every single weapon. So the more you have on a weapon, the better its scaling gets. And I see this getting thrown around a lot, so I just want to completely clear the air on it. The actual item level of something does not matter at all. Only the modifier score, which the current top value roll is 380. And I have not seen a single screenshot above that yet. So I want to thank you all for helping me figure out that the top roll was 380 by providing all the feedback and screenshots in Discord. I actually did really appreciate it, because it helped all of us get stronger together, and I plugged it all in the Google Doc. And if things ever change, we'll be able to stay on top of it super easily. So anytime you see an item between 70 to 80% rolls on its damage modifiers, it's always worth picking up if you don't have anything better yet, because you always want to prioritize modifiers, one perk, then one blessing, and go up from there. And if we want a God Emperor roll an item, it's just going to take an insane amount of luck, because perks and blessings come in 4 tiers that you can see based on the little dots beside the perks and the little lines on the box for the blessings. So without Hadron, a perfect item would have been 1 in 256, not including modifiers. But we get to half that with Hadron's crafting, making it a lot easier to see a god roll in the long run. And my main suggestion is just settle for something that's good enough. Then go for the big rolls after you have some decent stuff. So even though I only have 70 to 80% modifiers, when you start getting good rolls on perks and blessings, you notice a substantial strength increase, letting you tear everything apart even on the hardest difficulty. But now I'm going to show you how to actually craft a best in slot piece like I attempted to do with this Eviscerator. Now I did get insanely lucky, and it has crazy good rolls, but there was no way to get around shop camping every hour like a bot, but you have to look for certain values when you're actually there. Starting with decent modifiers, and you want to set your focus on gray items with the #1 priority, with the second priority being a green item with a decent perk on it, like let's say crit chance as an example. Then blue items need to have not only a good stat line, they need to have a good perk and a good blessing to even be purchasable or look at them. So when my main thing is I bought a ton of gray items, and I always upgrade them once to green. And if the perk is usable for the weapon, we keep upgrading it. And if it's something useless, we just instantly give up on it and leave it in the bag. We don't even look at it anymore, because upgrading gray to green is very cheap. And the cost for each tier is gray to green 150 plasteel, green to blue 50 diamantine 200 plasteel, blue to purple 150 diamantine and 400 plasteel, and finally legendary is 350 diamantine and 900 plasteel. So it is pretty expensive, but if you run tier 5 games pretty regularly, you get 200 of each thing pretty consistently. So you can see it gets pretty expensive at the high end, but you're only burning like 1 game of plasteel on the low end. So even though it's annoying, rolling like this in the long term will save you a lot of materials. And the reason we want to do this is because Hadron is only going to let us roll one perk, not both. But it does let you guaranteed roll until you get one perk. So if you force the first perk to be good by yourself and then use Hadron's system, you guarantee best in slot perks for yourself all of the time. And just to showcase the new perk reroll system, it costs mats but decreases in cost the more times you tap. So for science, I just kept tapping, and at 18, it became completely free for any taps after that for that specific weapon or curio. And I really like that they added this kind of RNG protection, because a long time ago, I remember reading that they said it would get more expensive over time. But I'm really happy they realized that that would be toxic. So I do have to give them credit here, because this is a very well-made system and I actually love it. So when they port this over to Blessings, it will get even better. So in the long term, it's not only going to save you a ton of materials, it's going to save you a ton of time, and it's going to actually let you attempt some of the absolute best in slot items in Darktide that will be irreplaceable until they do an update in the future. And we can apply these same values to curios, except there's only one blessing as the main thing on each curio. So buying even a green with whatever you want on it can become pretty valuable. And then if you look at blues, if you can actually get a perk and a blessing you want, it's insanely good, with grays being actually kind of bad until they add blessing rerolls. So as a general rule for perks, we want to look at block efficiency, combat ability regen, stamina regen, toughness regen, speed, and damage resistance to gun. All of these are insanely valuable on tier 5 and will scale lower in difficulty really well. Currently, though, I have not found one instance of toughness damage reduction, which would technically be the best thing in the game, and I've been asking you all for a ton of help with it, but nobody has been able to provide a single screenshot of it. So it's been data mined in the game files, it's just not currently active or available to obtain to my knowledge yet. I also tried rolling a curio for over like 40 minutes, and I didn't see toughness damage reduction, and I actually committed the time to it to see, so I don't think it's active yet either. And after the perk reroll crafting comes into effect, you might actually be able to guarantee yourself 2 good things if you buy a decent blue curio, but having 2 of any of these perks will make an absurdly good curio for any class. And there are quite a few perks for curios, but personally I just think those are some of the best ones to be running tier 5 with for now. With corruption resistance actually being really solid if you want to suffer through some grimoire missions, but the rewards don't exactly seem worth it right now to even bother with, honestly. And obviously there is a ton of good perks and blessings that are better specifically for each individual class, and I do go over what is best for each class in their individual guide videos. And I know a lot of people will cap gun res, but on tier 5 they can be a real problem when they're shooting you through walls. And I didn't record my bolter because I tapped it up the day Hadron came out, before they had anything other than the upgrade system. And I didn't know about stat lines at that stage, which is why I didn't really care about the stopping power, but I'm definitely not unhappy with it because everything I look at gets torn to pieces, and now I have to get insanely lucky to get one even close to this. And finally, probably my best item is my Flamethrower. This thing is so juiced, it literally melts everything on the screen. It's absurd how good a Flamethrower gets with cloud radius and how much reach this thing actually gets. Like, it's the only thing I can't reach is a sniper across the map. So a lot of people that have been watching for a long time know I love grinding Korean MMOs, and Darktide's crafting system is kind of like a Korean MMO enhancing system, except the gate is the base item. And in those games, when you enhance your item, it can just explode and disappear. So I'm really happy Darktide doesn't have that. If we did have more ways to obtain gray items, things would just feel a lot better. I talked about it in the problems video, but adding a 4th tab with 2 of every single item rolled as gray, every hour resetting, would just be insanely good. I know it still promotes shop camping, but at least seeing more things would feel a lot better, giving us more of a chance to just buy items and keep crafting over and over and over again. And then the gameplay loop could be obtaining the absolute best items in the game without feeling bad about buying the base item for it. Because right now things are just too limited to find enough items to roll up all the time. And I've been like no life camping the shop on 4 characters, and like I barely see good stuff. So something else that could help crafting quite a bit and make people feel a lot better about anything is the ability to reroll one of our modifiers. And I really hope they add that in the future as like one of the tabs, because honestly, being able to reroll a modifier would open up so many options. And then like, let's say you got a bad legendary, like dropped from an Emperor's Gift, and it had like low damage, and you could just re-roll the damage over and over again until it hit 80%, and then it was actually good, you wouldn't feel bad about getting a legendary item. And it would just feel better to be able to turn into something decent. So I'd honestly like to know what you guys think of the slow rollout of the crafting update, or if you got lucky and got something crazy like my bolter and my flamer yet. I personally don't love or hate it. It's just a system that lets me do more damage at the moment. And to me, it's just a lightweight Korean enhancing system where tapping is the excitement and the end game. So a couple people have been asking, and I'm thinking I might set up a group enhancing session in Discord one night so a bunch of us can measure legendary sizes.